We're joined this morning by Petrina Jenkins with Project Celebration. Good morning to you, my friend. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you.
We have a tragedy in our community, the death of a 27-year-old mother of three in the Caddo Heights neighborhood, apparently at the hands of her ex-boyfriend, apparently just broke up. What do you know about it? I know you're obviously not, don't have all the inside information, but you may know a little bit more about what happened from speaking to residents around our community.
Right. And I don't know about this specific case, but I know that it is what I did hear was that it sounds like it's pretty much, just exactly what happens in daily domestic violence situations. The only difference in this case is that we actually saw it play out, but millions of women actually live in this turmoil every day.
And she just recently had broken up with him. Is that accurate from what you're hearing?
Yeah, I don't know, but oftentimes, again, about this specific situation, but oftentimes the most dangerous time of an abusive relationship is while that person is trying to leave. Either the abuser has gotten word that she's trying to leave or after she's left. Over 85% of homicides that occur as a result of domestic violence actually happens after the victim has left.
Ms. Petrina, Aaron was talking in the last hour about how sometimes it's very important to get a protective order or restraining order, and my question was, does that really work? How many times do guys who are bent on injuring their partner or former partner, does it really count for anything?
Right. And I like to tell people that when you get a protective order, that's not the guru of it all. A protective order is a layer of protection. So that's just one layer. And along with safety planning, and of course, when we definitely implement the penalties associated with violating a protective order, then those things are absolutely effective.
That's just one of the tools, right?
That is absolutely one of the tools.
What do you tell this woman? She's 27. She leaves 3 children. I can't even imagine what the family's going through today. You work with these victims day in, day out, and with the families. How do they deal with this?
Right. A lot of times families will blame themselves. And I think that just the society that we live in, we do tend to blame victims. And we ask, well, why didn't she just leave? Why didn't she do this? But we never say, why doesn't he just not abuse her? Why doesn't he just not abuse his spouse or someone who obviously loves this person?
Right.
So I think that as a community, we've got to begin to wrap the accountability around batterers and take the focus off of victims and talk about his actions.
Let me ask you this, because I really want you to expound on this. It's really important for someone who's involved in a domestic abuse situation to talk about it, share it with people, take pictures, etc. Go into how important that is.
Right. That's very important. But you've got to remember that this is a pattern of learned behavior and that a lot of times victims are afraid. Sometimes victims don't talk because they don't want to endanger other people. And they've heard, if you tell this person, I'll kill you. If you do this, I'll kill you. And so we teach victims and we talk to victims all the time about taking what batterers say seriously. If someone says, I will kill you, they will kill you. And so we have to be really, proactive in having conversations and really just, again, holding batterers accountable.
This is not a question for me, but I don't want Aaron to forget, because we talked about a whole bunch of stuff last hour pertaining to this case and others, was your social media question.
Yeah, I'm real concerned about, because the years I spent working in this area, social media wasn't out there. Now it's out there, and people don't realize that a comment you might post on Facebook, though it might be benign, it might be just, to an abusive person, they might read all kinds of other things in there. Should people be careful?
Pardon me, because they know you're talking about them.
Yeah.
Even if you don't mention them by name. Is that a factor?
What's your advice with regard to what you post about this on social media?
Right, and of course, social media is just a two-headed monster. It can be great, and then it can also be damaging to domestic violence victims. I think that in this case, social media just basically shined a light on one of the social ills that we see every day. Sometimes we're blind, and just like the Ray Rice case, we knew it happened. We know it happens, but until we actually see it, it's just really it enlightens the awareness of what's going on. But it can also be very harsh and very cruel when it comes to victims. And just like we're reading those comments, you got to think about that. There's someone somewhere who's actually being victimized. And if they see this and feel like they're going to be re-victimized in social media with sharing and commenting, I think it's very important. We have to realize that when we make comments that someone who really is in danger may be reading that.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this. This man has a history of domestic abuse, of violent crime.
Right.
We all want to ask this question. I know this is not something you can answer. What's
Right.
he do? What's he doing out there?
Right. Again, it just goes back to stiffer gun laws and holding offenders accountable. Like, and a lot of times, I speak to prosecutors, I speak to DAs, and we have the conversation back and forward about victimless prosecution. Because a lot of times victims will not show up for court. A lot of times she'll show up and say, hey, I don't want to press charges. And then, of course, it may be the court system's response to say, well, we can't pursue a case where there's no victim. Well, I beg to differ because we do it every day in homicide cases, right?
You bet.
So I think that victimless prosecution is very important, that we are able to prosecute these cases with or without the victim's cooperation.
I hope this question is not out of line. I don't think so.
Okay.
Should people in this kind of, should she have had a gun?
Well, what we believe is that in instances, in situations where there is a gun present, that the gun will most likely be used to kill the victim. So we do not, and if you've seen the video, this is a person who is at an all-time high, is at an all-time, moment of anger, frustration, control. He would have taken it. And in most cases, that's exactly what happened. So we do not.
Does that mean that women in that situation are reticent, are hesitant, they won't shoot?
Well, it just depends on each situation. But what we know about the dynamics of domestic violence is that the batterer is a person who's about control. So with that same control, they're going to exhibit verbal, emotional, financial, sexual, and physical control.
Let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Petrina Jenkins with Project Celebration. I don't know if you and I can work together on this, what we can do. What
Sure.
can we do for the children? What is there anything our community can do to reach out for these youngsters?
Absolutely. Right now, this family needs our support. We need to offer them support and, of course, take a non-victim blaming stance to what has happened. These children are going to need counseling. But we, of course, have to realize that they're going to also have physical needs, that there's going to be something that these children will need, that society will have to embrace them at this point.
I hope you and I can get together off the air and maybe come up with some ideas to help, because I'll do
I would love to.
I will do whatever I can, and I know our listeners will help too. God bless the family. Our prayers go out to them.
Absolutely.
And I hope our whole community does too. Petrina Jenkins, Project Celebration, thanks for everything you do.
Thank you.